Well, welcome to Rural Strong Live. We have another exciting show lined up for you tonight as our special guest is a true honky-tonker who's still putting out that true traditional country music just the way we like it. Zachariah Malachi is a native of the Detroit, Michigan area, but now finds himself in Nashville, Tennessee, making his way as a singer-songwriter and catching the attention of some very influential folks in the traditional country music business. He just released a great new single we're going to talk about here in a bit, but first of all, Zachariah Malachi, the server of the grandest country music caviar. Welcome to Rural Strong Live.
You can't get much better of an intro than that right there. That's and I look totally country today in this newsboy hat, chilling in a t-shirt. It's let me tell you something. It is a scorcher out there today in Nashville. So I'm not wearing any polyester.
I'll tell you, about 2.5 hours north of you, it's no better here. We've got a heat index of about 110, so definitely thankful for the air conditioning. You're kind of channeling a little bit of a Roy Clark throwback there.
I can appreciate some good Roy Clark. I wish I had his talent, that's for sure. But
he dug those kind of hats, so
yeah, he did. He was a cool cat, man.
You're in good company.
Well, yeah, I feel like he paved the way for it. Now it's just my excuse for a bad hair day. So,
well, how have you been since we've seen you last? You haven't let the grass grow under your feet. I know that much.
No, I'll tell you, I wish I had the time to let it grow under my feet. But it's like with it's Music City. Nashville's one of those towns where it's like you don't have to be busy to be here because Nashville's busy for you. So if you just step out into Broadway, you just kind of take off with it. You know, you don't really have to drum up a whole lot. It'll find ways for you to be busy.
Well, it sure did this past week here with CMA Fest in town. A lot going on, a lot of stages around town. You had a chance to go down there and do some performing. Tell us a bit about that.
I did. I've been out of the game for a little bit. I was pretty heavy into playing downtown quite a bit. For about a year and a half straight. I was doing about 5 or 6 nights a week, and then I went off for a little bit and was pulled away into some media. We'll talk about that later. And then I came back home and had a few gigs here and there, but nothing like it was. So going out into CMA Fest, and I got to play the Glenn Campbell stage thanks to Bev Mosier. She kind of set that up for a lot of really talented people. And it was a good show. It was a good time. It was kind of quiet, but I was really happy to kind of get back out there and stretch my playing abilities a little bit again. I'm sad to say I've been out of practice for a little bit, so I'm happy that I got to do it a little more.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, you got a chance to hit the stage there with Tess Frizzell, who was our guest last week. How was that experience?
It's good. It was really good. Tess and I have a really good feng shui on stage together, I think, because I just try to. I've kind of become another little brother to her.
Right.
So I will do things purposely to get her to laugh or to chuckle, and she probably doesn't like it, but I just she doesn't hate it enough to where I told her, I said, I never charge her or anything to pay with her, and I would never take a dime from her. But I'm the cheapest guitar player you'll ever get. So I said, you have to put up with me anyway. But
and knowing that, she also took you along to the children and the offspring of the Legends concert out there at the Music Valley as well.
She did. That was a fun night. I hadn't got to perform in a big crowd in a while, so I was excited and happy I got to do that to people who actually love really, really good country music. So I was happy to serve some caviar that night too.
I'm just checking the comments here. I see Tess is checked in here, and she asked if we're talking about her. So yes, it's affirmative. We are.
Affirmative. Yes, I said that I am the cheapest guitar player you'll ever have.
And also darn fine one, too, as you exhibited last week. I tell you what, before we get going tonight, will you share a little more of that with us and kick us off with a song here?
Sure, I'll do my namesake on this one here. Well, I wonder if you've been here long or if you just sat down. And I wonder if they filled you in. I'm the talk of all this town. You may not know the truth about me if you've come from afar, 'cause I'm this local bar, grand old Opry star. Yes, I'll sing a song of sadness for the love that's got away. And I'll sing a song of a romance on a couple's special day. And both start to intoxicate it to feel that I ain't up to par. 'Cause I'm this local bar, grand old Opry star. Yes, I'm here in the low places now with you and all your friends. And I'll croon out another drinking song like pop atop again. This smoky room's a fortress, a hillbilly Alcazar. 'Cause I'm this local bar, grand old Opry star. There you go.
Yes, sir. I love it. Before we go any further, as you were talking and singing, and we didn't get this as you and I were talking off camera here, but you've got a weird little crackly sound every time you talk or play here.
Well, that's maybe my mic is up too much. Let's see.
I just want to make sure we get that rectified before we go an hour.
Is that any better?
No, it did it again.
Let's see what could be causing that.
I tell you what, let's do here. I can talk for a minute if you want here, and if you want to disconnect and try again and come back, we'll see if that fixes the problem here. We're, as we say every single week, working without a net here, and there's always some sort of little hiccup in the.
Well, yeah, let's give it a shot.
In the program here. But in the meantime, thank you to everybody that's joining us. Quite a few people have jumped in here. We're going to try to get that squared away real quick here so we don't have to wear y'all out with an hour of crackling and buzzing here. We want to make sure we have a clear line here. But in the meantime, if you're watching, drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And we'd love to give you a little shout out tonight. Also want to encourage you, if you like what you see here, make sure you keep an eye on our socials. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. We're going to be sharing more of these live streams throughout the summer here, both on the country music side and on the agriculture side. So I hope you will be paying attention to those so you can follow along. And also, if you have any suggestions for folks we ought to be getting on the show or topics we ought to be tackling in agriculture, make sure you check in with those too, because we want to hear from you and kind of shape this content to make it be what you want it to be here. So we hope you will check in with those suggestions as well. Also, I invite you to check out our weekly podcast, which is Tractors and Troubadours, where each week we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. And you can find that wherever you get your podcasts, also at ruralstrongmedia.com. Well, I tell you what, it sounds like maybe we got it fixed here.
Maybe.
I didn't hear it. So, hey, we're going to go with that.
Sounds good to me.
I love it. I love it. Who knows, man? I keep thinking every week is going to be the week we have a clean show here. But,
well,
man, this stuff is so goofy.
It's technology for you, really.
I know we've got some of your kinfolk on here tonight. Tammy Smith Welch on, Jim Welch on as well. So shout out to them. I see your mom, my mom, and Tess Frizzell. So we're in good company tonight.
We're in good company, yes.
And whoever else happens to straggle in here. I see Stephen Eichert on there. Hey, thank you for watching. Angela Owsley, Connie Trott on there tonight. So thank you all for watching. Tell you what, man, you've had an eventful run since hitting Nashville, but before we talk about that, I want to pull back the curtain a bit on your career and this love for traditional country music. You know, as we said earlier, you grew up in the Detroit area, which many people think about for the Motown sound or rock and roll, but many people don't realize that area also has a really deep appreciation for country music. When were you bitten by the music bug, and who were you listening to?
I would say that I was probably, I can't remember when I really started being bitten, I'd say, by the country or by the music bug. I think I always just loved it. And I loved all sorts of music. I still do love every kind of genre you can think of. There's very few that I don't like. But I'd say what country, I think I grew up around country music. I grew up, my dad listened to country music. My grandparents listened to country music. But I think Hank Williams significantly changed my life. Yeah, there's my mom and dad.
You come by it honestly.
Yeah. Actually, I was, yeah, I was in the womb in that photo, unbeknownst to them. I think what really screwed me up was I think mom rode the bull at Gillies, and I was in the womb, and I think that it knocked me loose a few times. So it's probably what brought about the craziness. But Hank Williams did it the most for me.
Right.
So when I first heard Hank and I heard the Lovesick Blues and on my way to East Tennessee with my dad, that song just did something to me. And it's so funny and weird to throw on top of that. Children, for some reason, kids seem to gravitate towards Hank Williams. And I never understood why or why that's a sensation, but it seems to be. There's always some kid when they first hear, "Hey, good looking," they just lose their mind over it and becomes their favorite song, So
and this is a really unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Out of his catalog, what are your go-tos? What are your favorites?
It probably depends on the day. There's one song. Let's see. It goes through moments. "Never Again Will I Knock on Your Door" is a great song that I think recently just started digging into that one more so. I heard that one a few years back on the Three Hanks record. It's this Curb. I think Curb put it together. It's a compilation of some sort, and all three of the Hanks were on it. And they did different covers of old Hank Williams songs. And that's probably where I was first introduced to that specific song. But I mean, Dad had the 40 greatest hits of Hank Williams record. And it was a 2-disc. It was out in 78, 79. So it was one of the first compact discs, I think, probably, or around the time when compact discs were getting really big and really expensive. But Dad had that record, and I just burned it out. I mean, if you found it probably back at their house now, it's probably all scratched up because I took it to school in my little Walkman, and I wore it out. I wore out that record.
Man, I tell you, I'm fascinated when I see acts like yourself or somebody like the Malpass Brothers or Hannah Dasher or young artists with old souls. What is it about the classics that have always appealed to you?
The older I get and the more I listen to different types of music, I would probably just go ahead and say that there was something sincere about those songwriters, and there was something sincere about those acts, and they really believed what they had to say. And it's funny, like I talk about it today, but there's a lot of hip hop that's out today, for instance, that is genuine and sincere. And I think that that's what country music is lacking, is when you've got 6 or 7 songwriters in a room and they're writing these radio friendly country songs, that you've lost its sincerity. It's a story that's made up on the go. Whereas these guys back in the day would write about actual events. Cold, Cold Heart, for instance, is rumored to have been written about the fact that Audrey Williams had an abortion and didn't tell Hank because she suspected that he was on the road running around on her, and she didn't want to have another one of his kids. So he wrote Cold, Cold Heart about that experience and coming home, and an infection had set in, and he found her in the hospital when he came home from tour because of the abortion. So, I mean, like, those are real hard hitting stories and songs about actual events in people's lives versus today, where now it's like, let's get a gang of us together to sit down and try to write a song.
Right. Well, if I may be so bold, they've kind of burned out the template,
Yeah, and nowadays it's a very I think they found a system that works, and they just kind of recycle it over and over again. But I can't even try to begin to name 20 artists. I would say, if we sat here, we could spend the rest of the time on this show thinking of 20 artists from 2007 to now in country music that have phased in and phased out just as fast as they phased in. And it's like, okay, well, they were here, I remember them vaguely, but where did they go?
Right.
And I think that those type of artists don't ever really stick. You
Right.
know, they have their moment in the sunshine and then they go away really quick. And it's sad to them because I've known, you know, from so many people that I've got to meet in town, they moved here with the great intention of loving Hank Williams or loving Merle Haggard or George Jones, and they wanted to sing that kind of country music. And the industry is what changed them. The
Right.
quick money, desperation sets in on
Right.
these artists. I mean, we all deal with it. I just had a meeting with a friend of mine this morning, a songwriter. We all go through moments where it's just we will take anything that comes its way opportunity wise because we're just ready to work and we're ready to make the most of it.
Right.
And I
Right.
think a lot of people fall victim to it. I'm sorry, I'm long winded on the subject,
No,
but
that's I'm totally with you on it, and I think it's a tightrope, but I'm excited to see folks like yourself, continuing to hold the line here and be standard bearers for true traditional music because we see there's still a market out there for it. It might not look like the traditional model where you market it to radio, radio throws it out, everybody runs out and buys an album or CD or whatever, but this day and age, there's any number of ways for them to get that music in their hands and really enjoy it, just as they would have with Hank Williams or anybody else of that ilk.
it's very true. When I think, you know, I may not be radio friendly, but these days, man, I mean, some of the true holders of the flame are probably doing great without radio's help in the first place.
Right.
And man, you know, I forgot who it was, and I mean, I'm not necessarily his biggest fan, but I heard a story recently, real quick. I'll tell you real quick about it. But it was an Uber driver. Was He had an industry person in the car, and the industry person was on the phone with a manager, and he was upset because his artist couldn't fill the seats at the Ryman. He's like, man, he's like, we're pushing him hard. I just don't understand why, why we can't fill the seats, why we can't sell these tickets. And I guess the week prior, he was talking about somebody like Jason Isbell and how Jason Isbell wasn't doing what is popular these days, or something along those lines. And the Uber driver turned to him on this day and he said, hey man, Jason Isbell, he sold out the Ryman like 5 days in a row. You know, what I'm trying to say is those artists that are doing it the real way and doing it the way they want to, those will be the ones that you remember in 20 years. You
Right.
know, they're
Right.
not going nowhere. They'll have their fans will buy every little thing that they put out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that passion about it too. That's been the fun thing, working with more independent artists than anything is that if you get people in your corner, man, they will back you to the
Mhm.
hilt. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And they'll like the crappy stuff you do.
You're right. Right. So, did you have any other ambitions besides music, or is this always what you wanted to do?
Well, ironically enough, I always wanted to be an entertainer. Um, I was always an oddball kid. I was always weird out of the group of kids. I was always very different, and I don't know. I always wanted to be either a musician or an actor, I would say.
Uh,
Those were two giant passions of mine, and fortunately, lately I've got to fulfill both of those and got to see both sides of that coin. Something that I wouldn't replace for anything. So both of the worlds are very different. Come to find out, and the money is incredibly different in both of those fields
yeah.
as well. So
I know you talk about being a country music guy, listening to other kind of stuff. Well, when you were growing up, what other types of music were you really digging?
honestly, I loved anything old. I loved 50s music. I loved 60s music. I just liked anything that seemed like it was that it was just older retro music, you know, when I was growing up. And nowadays I think I'm even more open to anything. I love anything with a good hook. One of my biggest gripes on a lot of musicians today is that they write too much for themselves and not enough for a listener. And I love to give people a good hook and something to think about when they are done listening to the song. So anything that's got a catchiness to it, I just love. So I think pop music even has its place. I love listening to a good hook.
All right. Were you a rocker at all?
Yes, I was. I was.
Who
I
was your
was
go?
definitely in high school.
Who was your go-to?
Oh, Ozzy Osbourne for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge Ozzy Osbourne fan. Still am. I'll just be scrolling YouTube now and I'll like see those reels and I'll watch like old reels from the Osbournes and just laugh at the shenanigans. It's just, to me, it cracks me up still.
I was just reading yesterday where he's got another big surgery coming up here, really pivotal neck surgery. So
I think COVID beat him up pretty bad for last time I'd heard. I'm glad that that Ozzie's still doing Ozzie. And I don't even know if he's fully retired yet. I think that he still may pull out another tour eventually if he can heal up.
Right.
So I know that his family has had their own pros and cons from the television show. So, I mean, it's gotten some careers and probably caused some addiction issues with others. So it's hard to say, but I mean, overall, I like I said, I hope Ozzie can still do some stuff.
All right. Motley Crue fan at all?
How'd you know? Yeah, that'll do it.
Yes, drink it in.
I met Nicky once. I met him when he put his book out. I went and talked to him. That was super cool. I'm glad that I actually had a good interaction. You know, it's like he was one of those people to where, you know, he was such an icon to me at the time. I was playing bass and growing my hair out, and I was happy that when I met him, it was a really cool interaction. He was really nice and really loved his fans.
Right.
So
that whole be careful about meeting your idols kind of thing, huh?
Yeah. And one thing that he said that really did it for him is when he was growing up, I think it was in Idaho with his grandparents. He heard the first time ever he heard the record Big Bad John by Jimmy Dean.
Yes.
And he said that record was like so full of grit and so cool that it made him just totally, it changed his life. He said it was just like this really cool, he needed to be big and bad, you know, like the record. So
well, I love Willie's Roadhouse for keeping that song alive. It's still heavy into rotation there. So
oh yeah. I'll tell you, they got some good tunes coming out on there. But I mean, Jimmy Dean was a killer entertainer. He always had really good songs. I've done some deep dives on his stuff before, and I mean, yeah, I'd say he's underrated. He's obviously more known for sausage than anything else, but
right, yeah, good sausage too. But boy, he had a good variety show. He did it all. He was kind of that, you know, Renaissance artist of his time.
Probably made the most money out of all of them too.
Right.
So
tell me about the early days of your performing, because like a lot of artists we've had on the show, I know you spent some time kind of exploring some different sides of the country music genre. Before you came back to the true honky tonk music, you were into country punk. So tell me a bit about that first band, Hook and Crooks, and tell me about that whole experience.
I didn't know that Detroit really had much of a roots scene. I just, you know, I was into it, but I kind of thought that I was alone and into it. And I started when I was 18, I started kind of going out to shows, and I was, you know, it didn't really need a curfew at that time, obviously. So I got to be a little bit more free and open to go check out some venues and shows. And I always loved punk rock, and I always loved metal, and I loved country music too. And I think Hank 3 kind of opened the door for all three to meet in the middle, you know, and which was really cool. That was a time where Hank 3 was like really at the top of his game. I mean, Straight to Hell, the record came out in 2006, I believe, and I was 18 in 2007, so it was like not long after that. But anyway, I started getting tattooed by a friend of mine who just recently became a full-time tattoo artist. So I would go and sit in his chair and get like tons of stuff done super cheap, you know, and I was like getting my arms all tattooed up, and we'd be talking, and he's like, yeah, man, there's these bands that are playing. So I would go and see said bands, and I come to find out, I was like, there is like a rootsy bluegrass country music scene in this area. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that it was a thing. So me and the tattoo artist friend of mine, his name's Kurt Heiss, we started a band together called Hook and Crooks is what it ended up being. And it was one of those type of deals where nobody really even knew. I was just really figuring out guitar still. But nobody really knew much about how to play. We were doing like literally Johnny Cash and the Tennessee 3 style. We'd get in the garage and just learn how to do it, learn how to play and write. We were writing at the same time. We could literally just play the songs we were writing because we didn't know anything else. I could do a couple covers here and there, but that was it. So I mean, it was it's one of those times where at the time it looked like you were just doing, it was just ridiculous. But now looking back, it's like those were the moments that you really were working towards your goals. You were actually, you think it was just killing time with some buddies, but looking back now from where I'm at now, looking back, it's like, wow, like that was actually the days of figuring it out.
Right. And you're playing some around Detroit and Chicago. As you were starting to get paying gigs, did that kind of throw fuel on the fire here and make you think, man, maybe there's something here?
I can't say, did I actually ever get paid in that band? I don't ever, really? Looking back, I don't think I ever did. When I started playing in Nashville, was really when I started realizing, I was like, this could be lucrative if you do it the right way. I was like, but I never in a million years, like when I was in that band specifically, did we ever really, we would like be able to make back what we paid in gas or what we had to pay to stay in a hotel or something along the way. But I mean, we by no means were making any sort of money really, so I think when the money kind of came in, before I moved to Nashville, maybe a little bit before I moved to Nashville, it was a good weekend hustle with a couple of friends of mine. We had a little band back home before I decided to move here. But really, no, I the money situation didn't come in until much later, to where I started realizing that was a thing. I just figured it was a passion. I mean, and that's how it was treated in Detroit. It was your hobby. Nobody ever took you serious with it,
Well, you talk about that other little band you had, the Hillbilly Executives. You put them together around 2018 and kind of got back to your honky tonk roots. What were some of your favorite memories playing with that band?
Oh man, it's James McPhee on upright bass. Good guy, good buddy of mine. I love Jimmy, and Jackson Frederick Smith. His family's so steeped in music. His mother is Patty Smith. His father was Fred Sonic Smith of the MC5. So there's some Detroit for you right there.
Right.
But Jackson, he was trained doing a lot of that Chet Atkins style picking, and he was a huge country fan. But I mean, there's so many memories. I think with that band specifically, if I could tour with any band, I would love to go back out with those guys, just because we had so much fun just being around each other, that it was never work. We just loved it and enjoyed what we were doing, enjoyed each other's company and camaraderie, really. Right. So, man, there's so many good memories with those guys, and just so much ridiculousness that would go on.
That's part of what keeps it going, though, isn't it?
Really, yeah. I mean, that's the type of situation where you never really are working a day in your life. You're just kind of riding the wave and enjoying it.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we've been talking for a while here. Will you play another song for us?
Yeah, I could probably do that. Let's see what we're going to do now. Let's see where we're at. Stranger, meet me deep in town today. I feel I've known you for so long. We walk the streets and reminisce of all the times. We walk these same old streets alone. And after sunset and a coffee date we share, after story to tell is done, we share our dreams and hurt and all those heartfelt things we didn't even share as lives. And when the moon shifts and those bed sheets hit the floor, and after story telling's done, stop the world and make love deep into the dawn. Under bedroom 201. And when the sun drifts in those fog, man, I've done screwed up that song, Brent. It's been a minute since I've done that one all the way through.
That's all right. I was digging what I was hearing.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, the lyrics been tripping me out on that one lately, and I'm thinking I wish I would have rewrote a lot of that stuff before I actually cut it. But
excellent, man. Well, I appreciate.
I can actually, I can probably play a couple other ones here down the way.
Yeah, man, no, that's no problem. Hey, we got to say hi to Aunt Connie, checking in tonight.
Oh well, hey Aunt Connie, how are you doing?
She's out there. Donald Bedwell out there. We got a bunch of folks jumping on here, so hey to y'all.
Of course, I get an audience, and then I screw up my song.
It sounds like it's a forgiving audience, so we're good there.
Thankfully, I'll tell you.
So I tell you what, man. You got the Hillbilly Executives, but you're feeling that pull from Nashville. What was the deciding factor in packing up and heading to Music City?
I mean, honestly, Gus Arundel was the biggest factor for me. I mean, I pretty much, Gus is the owner of Springer Mountain Farms. There he is. That's Gus. He offered me, he offered to finance my record. And, I mean, it was just the same as getting discovered, really, so. I couldn't. Yeah, he's been a big proponent of country music. He helped out a lot of artists, but
right, yeah, man, just a great protector of country music and a great advocate, and has helped out a lot of artists.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's a good man. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be here without him or without the Browns. So,
right. Well, tell me a bit about that. How did that relationship come about?
Isabella and I really good friends, and Isabella Brown is Jim Ed's granddaughter. We ended up meeting, and that's how I got here. Is I ended up coming and staying here, and that's when I met Gus. And then Becky, Jim Ed's wife, asked if I would like to move in after that all happened to pursue my career in music. We were just talking about it today, and it's just interesting that I wouldn't, man. Yeah, it's always remembering your roots, knowing where you came from, and being thankful for the support that you've had. A lot of people, they get where they're going and they forget, the roots, and they would realize, and honestly, yeah, you have to always be thankful and remember where you come from, because I mean, there's several other things I could be doing right now, but I'm living in Brentwood, Tennessee, and with a loving family, great group of people. And I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity.
When you did a great job of getting connected right off the bat, not just with anybody in Nashville, but with some people who are really instrumental in the legendary sound of country music. Tell me a bit about your connection with this guy here.
Oh, Ranger Doug. Yeah, Ranger Doug. Riders in the Sky. Yeah, I actually wrote him. I just cold emailed him one time and was like, hey, I said, what's up, RD? I was like, I wanted to learn some of these guitar chops you've been doing. And we had a meeting in Brentwood. We just had lunch together and talked, and we talked about Toy Story. He was a huge part of the Toy Story soundtrack. Right. He's won Grammys for working with Disney. And we talked about that, and we talked about the Grand Ole Opry, and we talked about all that stuff. And actually, ironically enough, I think it was the same exact weekend that Becky had asked me if I wanted to move into the house here. Ranger Doug emailed me and said that he was offering me a room for rent. So Ranger Doug was one of the first people I met in town, and he was also, aside from Becky, the first person to ask me if I wanted to come and live in his house, which his house is gorgeous. It's a log cabin up on the hill. It looks something like out of a Western film. I mean, it's so fitting for who he is.
And so right off the bat, you're here in Nashville, and you've got some really solid connections there.
Yeah. I mean, big time. Yeah, big time, great people.
So another one I was fascinated about. Tell me about meeting this guy here, the newest member-elect of the Country Music Hall of Fame.
The Killer.
Killer.
Oh, Jerry. Yeah, I got to meet Jerry. I got invited by a friend of mine who was close to the family at the time to Jerry and his wife Judith's anniversary party. And I got to go. And unfortunately, I'd bought them. I'm gonna put this guitar down for a minute.
All right.
I bought them something for their anniversary, and I actually have it. I can show it to you. I have it. It's one of those constellation maps of what the stars looked like the night you got married, where you got
Oh,
married,
wow.
And it didn't come in time, and I had to find another present last minute, and I ended up going to the house, and when I walked in the door, they were already there, and Jerry's sitting in this big old chair, and it was just something out of a movie. It's like you turn the corner and you see the killer himself just sitting there, and I walked up to him and we started talking. And I wrote a song. I've been songwriting here and there with Dickie Lee. Dickie Lee he was a Sun Records recorder and artist. He was one of the last ones living aside from Jerry. And I told Jerry that me and Dickie were good friends, and he asked how Dickie was doing. But him and we had a brief couple minutes to talk and then got a good picture together. So people always ask when they see that photo, they want to know what Jerry was like. Jerry was specifically really cool to me. I can't speak for everyone's experience with him, but I can say that he was really great to me. So
I know a lot of people have been beating the drum for a long time to get him into the Country Music Hall of Fame. So neat to see that call finally came for him.
Jerry's true honky tonk. That's what I can say. I mean, you listen to those records, and he really, really knew what he was doing.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, and you've continued to make a name for yourself here in traditional country music. The opportunities have kind of become your way here. And here's another one I want to ask you about here. Tell me about this moment, because this is pretty special too. Another guy here has been a great, not only musician, but historian, protector of traditional country music, Marty Stewart, of course, and his fabulous superlatives. What was that experience like, getting to work with him?
well, sadly, it never happened.
Oh, it didn't.
It never happened. No, Marty had, for whatever reason, the gig had gotten called off due to, I think it was ticket sales. It was when the Brooklyn Bowl first opened in town.
Ah,
And I don't know if there was some promotional issues or what, but yeah, we never actually got to play that gig. However, I did do a gig at the Brooklyn Bowl. Eventually, we did it with Daniel Donato,
okay.
and the Cordovas. So we did get to play there, but I have yet to play a show with Marty Stewart. I have talked to Marty
Uh-huh.
several times. I just recently talked to Marty a couple weeks ago. Marty's great. Marty's a fantastic person, obviously somebody who cares about country music deeply and beats the drum for it, but he helps out artists that are at the end of their career. And I would say also at the beginning, he's definitely someone all over the board that I would say, if he's willing to give advice, to listen. So,
Well, I tell you what, knowing that now, we're gonna have to start a campaign to get this thing to happen.
to play with Marty, I'd love to
Yeah.
sometime. I'm sure one day, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to. Hopefully, I'll push it for him. The Congress of Country Music down in
Right.
Philadelphia, Mississippi.
I am
So,
looking forward to seeing how that's going. I got to see a few pictures circulating here over the last week of the bus that he brought up and parked outside of the Ryman for his a special late night jam here last week. That's pretty impressive. An old 1950s tour bus that has just been gutted and redone, and man,
I'm happy to
phenomenal.
say I was there. So
No. Yeah, what was that like? It
it was a
sounded like
cool it was a cool night. The bus is sweet. The bus
uh-huh.
was really cool.
Did you get to go through it?
No, it wasn't open at the time.
Okay.
He just had it setting almost to, it was almost like, I guess, probably for promo, just to have people aware of what was going on and what he's been doing in Mississippi. I think
Right.
that's his hometown down there is Philadelphia,
Right.
Mississippi. But Marty's got a cool story. I always recommend to anybody to look it up and to start kind of doing their own investigating. People that don't know too much about him would probably just guess that he was a late 80s, early 90s country musician, but it goes way, way, way deeper than that.
Right. Bluegrass guy. Spent time with Bill Monroe, and had a lot of great experiences coming up, and friends with a lot of those guys that came at Ricky Skaggs and Keith Whitley and guys like that. So
Yeah, Lester Flatt was
Lester
his
Flat. That's
first
right.
gig,
Yes.
and then he followed up with Johnny Cash. Played
All right.
guitar for Johnny Cash for a long time.
All right, married his daughter for a time.
Married his daughter.
It's quite a
Yeah.
story, and he has become one of the great historians and preservers of a lot of this country music history. So I've been chomping at the bit the past couple years to see what this Congress of Country Music is going to look like here, because I think it's going to be pretty special.
It's yeah, I reckon it's going to be super cool. I would say probably the closest thing to the Hall of Fame when it comes to the exhibits and what's available and the resources that are there.
Right.
So I think that's my retirement gig, is to eventually just get a full-time teaching job at the Congress of Country Music.
That would not be a bad gig if you could get that.
If you can get it.
And I tell you, aside from that, not to jump ahead, but one of the guys you have had a chance to work with out of that band, Chris Scruggs.
Yeah, Chris is a killer player.
Right.
Yeah, I've got to have Chris set in with me a couple times. Chris has not only set in with me live, but Chris has also played on my record. So Chris is, I always say, there's a couple guys in town that I prefer to play with, but I even tell Chris that he's always my one of my main phone calls. So I'm happy to be working with the professor of country music. So
I tell you, another one of these throwback guys that has such a deep appreciation, for traditional country music, especially the stuff going from like the 40s to the 60s. Man, just so passionate about it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, anything between country music and Western swing specifically. I mean, you can get into good Bob Wills conversations with Chris for sure.
Well, we certainly got to talk about your relationship with this guy right here.
The sheriff.
The sheriff, the guy that kind of made it all happen in the control room for you.
Yeah, in and out of the control room for sure. He would give me great advice about this town and great advice about country music in general. Jimmy was one of a kind, and I never heard differing stories about him. Everyone had the same general consensus to talk about Jimmy Capps. They always talked about his humility and his kindness, and that's one thing that I could always preach on. And I'm lucky. I always say, like, if there's ever some really extensive country music studies done later on in my life, I get to be one of the lucky ones to say that I got to work with Jimmy Capps. So that makes me extremely happy that people are interested to talk about him and that people like to know the history about what he's done and his part between working with the Louvin brothers, the Grand Ole Opry, learning from Owen Bradley, Chet Atkins, so many people that he got to learn from as a guitar picker. But yeah, Jimmy was the best.
Well, for folks who are unfamiliar, even if you don't know the name, I'm sure many of the stories he's played or songs he's played on have been part of the soundtrack of your life, really. Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, George Strait's Amarillo by Morning, Oak Ridge Boys, Elvira, How Blue, Fariba, just tons more. He was the house band guitarist for the Grand Ole Opry and also Larry's Country Diner, as you mentioned there. Sadly, we lost Jimmy 2 years ago this month.
Yeah. Yep. I never forget the morning, but we and ironically enough, we finished the record. We had to finish it without Jimmy, but I got to finish it with his wife Michelle. She helped out just as much as she started helping when we first started cutting it. And shout out that I have to give is we finished it with Charlie McCoy, who just became a member, just got inducted into the Grand Ole Opry last Saturday night, I believe.
Right. Yes, it absolutely was, and long overdue to see Charlie McCoy in there. And I know he played vibraphone on your project there,
and harmonica.
And he did play harmonica too. That's awesome. Yeah. He's one of the. I put him right up there with the greats of the harmonica players. Mickey Raphael and company. Just one of the amazing guys. And I'm glad to see, and this is me getting on my soapbox again. I know the Opry had spent quite a bit of the past couple of years trying to build some inroads with some younger listeners, but it's nice to see him kind of circling back over the past year or so and giving due to some of the legends who really paved the way for everybody else.
I attribute that to, honestly, probably the people that are kind of running the show now, and we've got a really good guy that's kind of been running the Opry now. He's kind of been the head of it. His name is Dan Rogers. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy, speaking of Jimmy, was very fond of Dan. Opry Dan is what they call him. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about Opry Dan. So I'm happy that now, we got to see a lot of really good traditionalists become members recently. And I'm very happy to see that. It's like you said, long overdue for someone like Charlie. But Charlie Charlie's been a great session player over the years. One thing I was just talking the other night about is my connection to the film Blue Velvet. And I've got a couple oddball connections, but one of them was that I had Charlie McCoy play on my record, and he played vibraphone for local bar Outreach Star, and he also played vibraphone on Bobby Vinton's Blue Velvet back in 1959. So
Man, what a connection there.
I know.
That's got to be some of those kind of pinch yourself moments when you start to think about that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, big time. And now it's like you can talk about it even casually to some friends or family, and you just mention this sort of thing, and they're like, they think it's crazy, and now you're just kind of like, well, Nashville's like that though. It's like Nashville just kind of makes all of that stuff seem very normal, but it's really not. In any other city, in any other place in the world, it's not normal.
Right. There's just a business, isn't it?
It pretty much. Yeah, it's a business, and any good musician, session or not, they just like the work. They want to play.
Yeah. Right. So do you get a chance to keep tabs with Jimmy's wife?
Oh yeah, Michelle and I are good friends. We just celebrated her birthday. Well, her and Jimmy's birthday. They shared the same birthday.
How's she doing?
Well, it's mixed. Michelle's had a really hard time with it.
Right.
She's had a very hard time getting adjusted to life without Jimmy, and it's best, during the first 2 years, I would say specifically, I'd get off of a gig at sometimes 2:30 in the morning, and I would look on my Facebook Messenger, and she'd be online, and I would just message her, and we'd start talking at 2:30 in the morning, where I'm sure she was getting adjusted to going to sleep, with Jimmy at a reasonable time when Jimmy was alive. So I could imagine that the late night hours haven't been necessarily too kind to her. And she's definitely mentored me and helped me a lot when I've had like music industry frustrations, where I'd be able to call her and just kind of air out my thoughts and feelings on things. And I mean, between you and I and everybody else watching, I guess I'd like to say that I wish the industry was kinder to her too. She had a lot to do with Jimmy's career after she they got together, and she went with Jimmy to everything and helped out at the Opry and helped out at Larry's Country Diner and did a lot of great things. Was very, very involved. And I just hope that all of those people remember that and are willing to pick up their phone and still call Michelle, because she still loves being involved and she still wants to be involved, and she still is a plethora of knowledge and a lot of experience that she can give. And I hope that she continues working in the industry, because she's great at what she does. With that being said, she actually just helped produce and did produce a Mo Bandy record.
Wow.
So she's still getting her fingers in, but I know that she still loves working. She still loves the work.
I love it. Well, I've not had a chance to meet her in person, but I have thought a lot about her the last couple of years and lifted up prayers for her. And I echo your sentiment. I hope the business is good to her, because that's a lot for anybody to deal with, but especially when you're that invested in a career and in an industry that we just wish nothing but the best for her.
Yeah.
As far as this album here, man, an A-list, you talk about Scruggs and Charlie McCoy, a good friend of the show, Tim Atwood on keys there, Andy Leftwich on fiddle, and Greg Ritchie on drums, Dave Pomeroy on bass, and the sheriff himself played some guitar on there as well. So, man, just an A-list cast playing behind you there. What was that like?
Oh, it was cool. I mean, it was super cool. I remember hauling Charlie's vibraphone into the studio. I remember helping him carry it from the back of his car into the studio, and he was like, I think this is the first time one of the artists ever helped me load and unload. And I said, very much so. I said, but you guys are the legends. I'm here. You guys are just backing some stuff that I wrote. I was just happy to be in a room with so much talent at one time, and all the people you just named, anybody that wants to do their research can look up that stuff and they can find out how they've heard these people before. Because if you know anything about country music, I guarantee you have heard these people before. So I think musicians now, just now in this day and age, are getting their due. It's like before you could barely find a track listing on a credits listing on a vinyl sleeve. You had to look it up on whatever. I mean, at least the internet now keeps track of that stuff. But I'll tell you what, so many people we don't know. I mean, Jimmy, he would listen to a song on the overhead at a grocery store, and he'd be like, Michelle would say, Jimmy, what are you doing? He'd say, I'm trying to figure out if that's me or not.
And more than likely, it probably was.
Probably was. He did more than he could name.
That's just unbelievable. I forgot to toss that one up there. Here, there's another one of them in the studio working on things here.
Jimmy and Mark. That's Mark Capps right there on the engineer board. He's won a Grammy himself. Works very close with the Isaacs.
Another great group out there.
Mm.
Well, you followed local bar Opry Star with Where Do You Go late last October, and then again I get to Missing You in late January this year. Now comes the new single, The Drinking Song. Tell us about this song.
It's a new old song.
Uh-huh.
I cut that song with Hooking Crooks years ago, and this was my opportunity to cut it again. Like I said, with Nashville's Finest. So I got to cut it with all the boys back in October of 2019, I guess. It's been that long. That's how long this record's taken. That's why I can't remember the words. It's taken so long to record and to get it out. And like I said, with Jimmy passing, it made a big lull in time in between during COVID, and it's taken forever to get this thing out. But guess what? It's done, and it's on its way at this point. Right. So I'm happy to say that. But yeah, The Drinking Song, wrote it about George Jones over 10 years ago. So happy to have it recorded in Nashville, Tennessee, and with people who did get to record with George Jones. And Jimmy, the word damn is in the song, and Jimmy said, Zach, I don't know. I think maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if you took that word out of your song. And I said, Jimmy, it's a rhyme word. I said, man, damn, those are the rhyme words. So what are we going to do if we take it out? He goes, hey, I'm not telling you, hey, it's your career. If you want to fail, it's your career. That's what he said. Of course, kidding about it, but it wasn't Jimmy's favorite word, but Jimmy was a saint. I guess I'm a little dirtier.
Well, do you remember the other words of that song enough to share it with us?
Yeah, I can do that one because I've done it long enough. Yeah, I'll do that one for you. I drink in the morning and I drink till dusk. I drink when I'm feeling just so down on my luck. Well, I drink when I'm good and going with you. I drink when I'm feeling just so downright blue. I drink till I'm drunk and I'm feeling alright. Well, I drink when I'm in bed with you at night. The doctor says my body's just about half done, but to quit my drinking is to quit having fun. I should get my health right back to where it has been, but when I take a big sip, I'm feeling good again. Well, I got a DUI out on the road last night. I said I wouldn't take the test unless I got in a fight punch. Drunk and handcuffed on that old dirt street, and now I'm sitting in a cop car with no shoes on my feet. Well, my good time left me here without a clue, and when I get to jail, I'll make some toilet brew. The doctor says my body's just about half done, but to quit my drinking is to quit having fun. I should get my health right back to where it has been, but when I take a big sip, I'm feeling good again. Well, I get a little crazy when I'm on the blues. Well, I feel like I'm winning I drink when I'm feeling just so downright blue. I drink till I'm drunk and I'm feeling alright. Well, I drink when I'm in bed with you at night. I'm drinking.
There it is. Imagine that one gets them going when you play it live, doesn't it?
Used to. I ain't played it live in a while, but I guess it's getting near the time to do it again. So
there we go. Well, with that said, what are some of your plans here? What do you got on the horizon? What are some of your long-term goals here for the business?
I'm just, man, I'll tell you, there's the holy trinity of the music business. It's your management, it's your booking agent, and it's your record label. And I'll tell you, they all play a part very equally in the success of an artist. An artist needs a good team. There's a lot of people that push through on the indie way. And I'll tell you what, man, it's tiring, kills your creativity. So I'm excited to eventually get to work with a good team, and that's kind of what I'm pushing forward right now is that. So,
right
on the horizon, we'll see. I'm writing a lot. I'm getting some new tunes out. I wrote a whole new record during COVID. I've just been sitting on it.
Excellent. Any dream collaborations there, both on the musician end and the producer end?
I'd love to work with Marty on a project. I'd love to work with Marty Stewart on a project, and I'd love to have Rob Zombie's guitar player John Five do some country picking on a record of mine, because he's a great country guitar player too. I don't think he gets to utilize his talent as much across the board with Rob Zombie, but I'd love to have him play some country music with me sometime. So that's somebody I would love to reach out to down the line.
There you go. Is there a Dragula country cover in your future?
No, I'll tell you, I've heard enough karaoke covers of that I don't know if I would ever be able to want to replicate that at all. So
there you go. Well, that's actually good to know. That's good to know. So what does it mean to you? And I don't know if this is something you think about at all or not, but to be carrying the torch for so many of your honky tonk heroes. I mean, you just sing about George Jones there, but just that you're this next generation really picking up the mantle for true traditional country music.
Oh, man, I never put it that way or thought about it, to be honest. I couldn't escape it if I tried to. And, you kind of want to try sometimes when you're not being too active at it, or you're really wanting to do more in it. It's hard. It's a hard business. It's definitely something that you definitely need to have the preparation for if you are wanting to be a musician. If you're wanting to be a country musician and you're wanting to move to Nashville, Tennessee, you have to be prepped for a lot of disappointments. You have to be prepped for a lot of closed doors. And the one thing that I can say is that, if you were meant to do it, if you feel like you couldn't find your life outside of it, then maybe it is for you. I guess that's what it was like for me. It's like you can't separate yourself from the music anymore. I have country music, country and bluegrass music specifically is every aspect of my life. I live in Jim Ed Brown's house. All of my friends are country musicians. My girlfriend is a member of a bluegrass duo, and she plays with Bobby Osborne on the weekend at the Opry. My life is country music. Every aspect of my life is country music. So I can't separate it from anything. This is what I live.
Right.
So, every big opportunity I've ever had in my life was linked towards country music.
Well, I tell you, if there is anything that you could do outside of country music, have you ever thought about that? Is there anything you could see yourself suited for?
No. Maybe acting.
Yeah.
Making movies. Making TV shows. I got to do a little bit of that. We'll talk about that probably down the line, but I got to do a little bit of that. And I found out that it's a pretty cool industry, but it takes a lot of patience. But maybe that.
What kind of work were you doing there?
I got to play a character that was a musician. I'm going to vaguely talk about it.
Big stretch there.
Yeah. In a television show that will be coming out in October on Paramount.
Ooh.
And I won't talk too much more about it because I haven't exclusively released any of those details yet publicly. But I would definitely be on the lookout for that because it's going to be a pretty massive show.
Awesome.
So,
well, I hope you come back and share deets with us when you get them.
Anytime you want, Brent, you know that.
I love it. Well, in the meantime, if folks want to follow you on this journey or check out any touring you got or download any music or any merch or anything of that nature, where do they go to do all that?
You can do that at localbaroperystar.com or on the Facebook or the Instagrams, Zachariah Malachi.
Gotcha. And I take it ZachariahMalachi.com will also get you there?
It's true.
Boom. All right. So we'll make sure we send folks there. Make sure you go check him out. Go download that music. Put a few bucks in his pocket. Keep this flame burning for true traditional country music. And Zachariah, I want to thank you so much, man, for taking the time to join us, not only last week, but this week as well. And if you're not doing anything next week, I don't know. Come back anytime.
Just as long as your listeners don't get too tired of me.
Oh, I'm sure we could keep pulling back the layers here. There's probably a lot we could discuss here.
I think you're right. You're right.
Deep into the history of country music. And it's always a fun time to start connecting dots there. So,
big time.
Man, I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, Brent. Thank you so much.
And we want to thank you all so much for joining us this week. We're going to be adding more of these country music and agriculture themed live streams throughout the summer. So we hope you'll join us. And the place to stay plugged in there is by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Also TikTok. We're there too. So go follow us on all those socials so you know what's going on here. We've been having a lot of discussions the past week about, hey, just what is Rural Strong Media and where is this thing headed? Quite simply, we aim to be the definitive voice of rural America. So you're not getting the full story, just checking out mainstream media. We're trying to tell it from the perspective of farmers, ranchers, others in agriculture, as well as people just living the rural lifestyle. So make sure you stay with us here. We've got a lot of projects in the works here, and we'd love for you to be a part of it and stay plugged in. We'd also be honored if you'd subscribe to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast, where each week I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, some educational features, and the best in traditional country music. And as we say every week, the best place to find that, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, and the new Samsung free app, also at ruralstrongmedia.com. And it's there. You can find that podcast as well as our other podcast, Ag Women Strong with Lori Boyer. Each week, we're going to bring you another feature on another woman making a significant impact in the agriculture industry. We've gotten great response from that, and we hope to keep that going here. So make sure you go check out Lori Boyer's podcast, Ag Women Strong. Check out Tractors and Troubadours. Also, the 24/7 internet radio station, Rural Strong Radio, which you can find at ruralstrongmedia.com. There you'll find true traditional country music. You'll find Marty Stewart there. You'll find Jim Ed Brown there. You'll find Zachariah Malachi there. So make sure you go check all those artists out and give it a listen, man. If you got some chores going on, if you're out in the sprayer, out in the field, wherever you are, make sure you go check it out. Well, I tell you what, we're going to get on out of here. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Concept Agritech, Gateway Seed, and GoatLifeClothing.com. Well, friends and neighbors, the clock on the wall tells us it's time to get on out of here. So now, for Zachariah Malachi, it's Brent Adams. We hope you come back again next time we have the lights on, okay? And you know what? Bring along a friend.
Yeah, bye, y'all. Thank you so much.